going to unbox Napoleon 1806. This is from the Conquerors Series. In fact, I think this was the first one in the Conquerors Series. There's Napoleon 1806, Napoleon 1807, and Napoleon 1815, which this was complimentary from Shakos, so thank you for that. But this one I got from Noble Knight. I believe I used the code from Ardwolf's Lair's 15th anniversary, so check that out. I think that's good for the whole month. Anyway, this is the Conqueror Series from Shakos, and as you can see here on the back of the box, it's 2 players, 90 minutes, 14 plus. You get a mounted map board. You have a screen to keep track of your basically unit strength or troop strength, because you have a board that keeps track of your unit's strength and I can't believe it's like, maybe it's morale. It's been a while since I played that. But you basically have it for each of the leaders, and the leaders are on the board, and they're, I believe this is probably the same as the 1815 that I've covered, which, again, I'll put a link to that in the description below. But you have leaders on blocks. You stick with the blocks, and then the leaders are on the board, and then you keep track of their the unit's capabilities on this board. There are cards that come into play, but that basically allow you to kind of do your movement, and do your combat. So let's get inside the box and see what we have here. This is the 1815 that I covered is I found to be a very beautiful game. Great look to it, and this one is, or should be, equally magnificent. Some nice looking games here. So you get the box here, square box. Not bad, not super thick, but not bad. You have, which is kind of a quick start rule, so you can just play with this. This is kind of the basic game, so to speak, and so it's 4 pages, dual column, color, but you have a huge setup here in the middle to show you how to get it all set up. So really not a lot of rules there, right? So you can just how to win, how to play, how to move, fatigue. That's what I was looking for, fatigue, because you're going to keep track of the unit's strength and its fatigue. Forgot that. And then how to engage in combat. So pretty simple there, right? Then you have your stickers, which, as I say, you're going to put, these are the leaders predominantly, and you're going to put those on the block. And on the back side, I think, is their activated side. So the front side, the leader's ready to go, and on the back there are activated. And you can see here, you've got the French and the Prussians. This is 1806 in part of Napoleon's Prussian campaign. We'll do the board last, but as you can see here, thick board, nicely bound. You get your full rule book. So you got the quick start rules, but here is the actual rule book, which is 23 pages, but you've got a lot of notes back here. This is campaign history, designer notes, details on the playing cards. This is more detail, so they're kind of explaining some of the nomenclature that are on the cards. Rules for rules of the marshal. Not sure what that means. And rules of the grognard, and what that means is this is like a little bit more advanced game. You have like hidden setup, that's where you use those shields. And you have fog of war, cavalry vedettes, so so a little bit more advanced rules. Here's a short scenario. So really you're looking at 14 pages of rules when all is said and done of what you actually need to know to play the game. Here's combat, and there's examples here. There's movement. Here's your sequence of play. So again, this game is not overly complex. It's relatively easy to get into. You have your leaders on the board, and then they'll have your sideboard you have on the map, and then you have your sideboard that keeps track of, their strength points and their fatigue. And if you get too much fatigue, you can lose the entire unit, no matter what its strength point total is left. And these are used for the cards. You're going to have a deck for each of the factions, and the card's going to tell you how you move. So like here 4, you can move 4, but there's usually, if you have more than one leader in the stack, then that's going to take away from the movement. So if you play that on one leader, you can move 4 spaces, and it's kind of a point-to-point map. But if you have 2 leaders, then you'll move 3. I believe at least that's the way 1815. I can't believe that rule set's probably changed too much in here, but you never know. And then this down here is really for combat effects. The cards really kind of have a dual use. This will be somewhat of a combat effect for the when you do engage in combat. And there might actually be some events that you can play on there as well. And there's 3 types of events, as you see on the border up here. You've got green, but you have rain is a red background that must be played. Blue is can be played for its event during the initiative phase. So that's an intuition. And then green is forage. That can be played for its event during the operation phase. So you have immediate play, can be played during initiative, and then can be played during operations. And then you have your game set up there. And then, kind of talk about your components here. So a lot of cool stuff here. And these flags are to mark the controlled areas on the board. So you have these shields. You don't have to use these, but you can, especially if you're playing the advanced or the grognard scenarios. That gives you your game sequence and tells you everything you need to know as far as the game mechanics are: moving, combat, and stuff dealing with the commander. But you would use that actually as a shield too, to cover your strength of your forces. So you have one for the Prussians, and you have one for the French here. So nice little game shields there. Then you're going to have, this is basically your strength board. So here's the Prussians, where you're going to keep track of their strength points and then keep track of their fatigue. This is their, I believe they're starting on the board, what their starting strength. So this has got 1 infantry and 4 cavalry. And then you'll have them marked on here like with gray cubes and then purple cubes for the mounted units. And then when you take damage, take hits, they'll come off this board here. Fatigue, if you ever get all the way to the end here on fatigue, you see the little skull there. Well, that means that this whole unit is removed from the board. You see these numbers here, this 1 and this 2. Well, if you're in this side of the box where you're going to be able to get, you're going to draw 1 card for that. Or roll dice. So you don't have to use dice at all. You can use the combat cards. That's that part at the bottom I was talking about. But they do have dice in here as well. So you can roll the dice, which are, correspond to the same thing as the card. If it's a pip, it's a hit, or the pips stand for something, and then the cross X's stand for losses. Losses of actual units. So you have fatigue and losses, I believe, on there. So you'll get 1 card if you're on this side, but if you have enough strength that goes over this line, see the 2, then you'll get 2 cards or roll 2 dice, depending whatever your pleasure is there. But that kind of keeps track of built-in bonus for how many strength points you have. So you have a board for the Prussians, and it's one-sided because and it's very thick because that will be on the table, keeping track of this. And if if you're playing the grognard, you'll keep a screen over it so people can't see. Otherwise, it's open information. And then here is the Napoleon forces or the French forces, and their board. And it's the same way with strength points and with fatigue. So you have that, and very nice and thick there. You have the bag. The bag is not really used in the game. I think I end up putting all the blocks in the bag. That's what I end up doing there. Here's your fatigue markers, so little round cylinders that you'll keep track of fatigue on your units. Here's the blocks that you're going to have to sticker for the leaders that will actually go on the board. Then this is the French strength and mounted, and then the Prussian infantry and mounted, or strength points for infantry and mounted. Then these are just various other markers to keep track on the game board, and then the flags for control, and then I'm not sure what the other red ones are on there. I have to look that up. But so you got some, and all wood bits there. You get your dice, as I said, that are really kind of supplementary to the cards. You don't have to use these dice. If dice hate you, then you probably want to go with the cards. Then you have the cards here. Let's get into these cards. See what we have here. And then you have this nice inset here, so everything can go back in the box very nicely in this inset here. In fact, I think I can put my dice in there. So you have the cards, and you're going to have two decks. So you have a Prussian deck and a French deck in this game. And so you'll have, as I said, there's three different types of cards between red, green, and blue, and that's going to tell you when you can play these. They also have movement points, or when you can play them for their event ability, so to speak. But then you have the movement points. You can always play them for the movement points, and that's how you do combat too. You move around the board with these, and then you initiate combat when you're in the same area. And then you've got this for your combat effect, or you can use the dice. So you have a whole deck of cards here, and then they have some events again, but you're limited on when you can play those depending on the type of card it is. And then you have the same for the Prussians here. So nice flavor here. So it's a different kind of game on how it's not, it's kind of card driven because the cards drive movement, and movement, you have to have movement to get to the combat. And then they also have a dual purpose of being actually the combat cards themselves, or how you help initiate combat when you're how many cards you can play on your turn. So there's the cards, or how you play on during combat, I should say. Let's look at the map now. Clear out some space here so we can look at the map. But the maps are nicely done. As I said, it's kind of a point-to-point map. I might have to pop up a little bit on this so you get the full splendor of this. And so you're going to have your turn track here. Well, not your turn. Your turn track is over here. Over here is your victory point track, and it's kind of a tug of war. If you're familiar with Twilight Struggle, there's going to be a marker here, and depending on taking control of certain areas, or eliminating certain units during the game. So there's ways to get victory points, and you'll keep track of that here, and it's kind of a push-pull type situation. If you ever get down to 0, then I believe here, I think the French are going to win. If you get up to 21, or 20, I should say, then the Prussians are going to win. So this is basically the key to the game, is as you're controlling different areas or eliminating units, you're going to be tracking them on this victory point tug-of-war track here. There's also some notations here for use in the game, for movement and combat and the like. Here, just a few notations here. The terrain comes in somewhat effect, but there's not a ton of different types of terrain. Here you've got some woods that have some effect. And in 1815, the cities came into a little bit of effect, but I'm not certain if looks like there's bridges. Maybe those red cubes are for bridges, to keep track of maybe some bridges, or destroying bridges, or maybe blocking movement at some point. But I don't know if cities really make as big an effect here as they did in 1815, other than maybe the victory points for controlling them. So that is the board for the game, and this is what you get in a box of 1806. And I believe this is what started off the series. There's 1806, there's 1807, and 1815. I like the series. I like how it is very accessible, meaning that it's pretty easy to pick up. The cards let you do movement. You do movement to get to combat. You've got some areas that you need to control. You need to eliminate some units. The strength points and fatigue are all kind of self-contained on a separate board for each of the factions. So a lot of the gameplay is here in managing your strength and your fatigue. And cards might help you, reduce fatigue and the like. And if you don't do anything with a unit during a turn, then like if you rest, then there's you can get some fatigue back or lose some fatigue as well. So there's a way to kind of manage that. So this is really a neat way of handling your strength and fatigue. And it's not unique. There's other games that have tracked stuff on a separate sheet, but this is really nicely done. I mean, nice thick boards. And it's very visual with the colored cubes on there. Then you have your screens that you just keep track of. These are really kind of your player aids, but they can also serve as fog of war for if you want to play that way in the game. You have your rule book, which is it wasn't as easy the first time I got through, but I mean I recommend going through the quick start rules really quick just to and put some units on the board just to kind of get a feel for it, and then get into the rules. Between the two, I felt this wasn't that hard to play. I mean, it's not a complicated game. It's just a little bit different, because you're using these cards in a little bit different manner. They're not just action points that you can use in a point-to-point map. It's really all based on movement. And then, engaging in combat at the end of that movement, and then using these events in 3 different ways, or limited by 3 different ways of how you can, 3 different times that you can use these cards based on the color at the top. You do have some stickering to do. I'm not a big fan of stickering, but there's not a lot here. I mean, this is all you have. You just have this little sheet to do stickers, so it doesn't take that much time. But anyway, that's what you get in a box of Napoleon 1806. Love to know what you think about this series, the Conqueror series. I'm on the lookout for 1807. As I said, I got this from Noble Knight. But I like the series. I enjoyed playing 1815. Again, I'll put some links to my unboxing, and I think I did an after action report on that. I like it. I want to play 1815 more, but I wanted to explore this campaign, 1806, the Prussian campaign, in a little bit more detail, and I thought this would be a good game to do it. It's very high level, and it's more kind of it's tactical because you're dealing with movements on kind of a inset scale. However, it feels operational. Now, there's not really supply here. It's kind of abstracted how that is working out. I mean, you're kind of limited by your cards, so that's kind of the abstracted way of doing it. But I like the perspective of this. It's not deep, but there's a lot of gameplay and decisions here. And it's just, again, I think it's stunning the way it looks. I think it's very colorful, and it has a nice look to it. Anyway, love to know your thoughts. If you played this game, 1807, 1815, any in the series, what do you think of it? Love to start a dialogue. And as always, thanks for stopping by and spending some time with me. Drop a comment. Let me know you stopped by. Love to hear from you. Anyway, have a good one. Thanks for watching.